So I would like to introduce Dr. Tim Nedwed, who I think is dialing in from maybe his house, one of his houses in the US, and he's going to be giving us an overview on chemical herders. Thank you. And Tim, you've got about 10 minutes, if that's all right.
Okay, thanks. All right, well, I'm used to going after commerce. In the past usually takes me 25 to 99% of my speaking time, so I'll speed it up here. Maria, thank you, Maria. So Maria introduced me. I'm Tim Nedwed. I work for ExxonMobil, which I will be doing until December 31st of this year, by the way. So there's an announcement. I lead the oil spill research program for ExxonMobil, and I've been doing that since around 2004. So I've been doing this kind of work for a long time, and I've been working on herders for that entire time. And we began by trying to use them for a response option in the Arctic, and it's evolved since then. So when you hear herders and you hear their ability to work, not in Arctic only, they have been developed for open water in temperate regions, ice-free. Far more work has been done for that realm than for ice-prone waters in the Arctic. So I'm going to describe a background information. I think there's more talk coming on herders after myself. And so I'm going to give some background information. When I talk about herders, I always start by saying I think herders are a step change advance for oil spill response, because they're going to enable, and when I say that, it's because they can enable in situ burning with very limited logistics. So a very small amount of equipment. You don't need large boats. You don't need large booms. It allows in situ burning without a lot of equipment. So that means it can be done fast, and there can be a lot of units that allows in situ burning to be done. So let's get started with this. Okay. So, as I said, herders can be used for a number of things, but for large offshore oil spills, they're really best for enabling in situ burning, and I'll describe why in a minute. But I wanted to describe in situ burning because a few years ago I gave a talk, or we attempted on a drill to get herders used for in situ burning in the Gulf of Mexico. The regulators, the powers that be, the stakeholders looked at herders, and they were afraid that ignited oil slicks that were in the boom would maraud around the Gulf and ignite infrastructure platforms, gas platforms, and oil platforms on fire. And they wouldn't endorse herders for that reason, and I wasn't able to tell them that that's crazy at the time. So I want to describe why that is crazy. But some basic requirements for in situ burning is oil, and it's the same for herders it is if you did it in a boom. Oils must be thick enough to burn, because you have to insulate the fire from the heat loss to the water. So 2 to 3 millimeters at least is needed, and the thicker the better. The oil can't be too weathered, and it can't contain too much water, or it won't sustain combustion. And high winds are a challenge too, because you simply blow out the candle. A candle gets blown out because you blow the volatile fuel away from the burn, and that snuffs the candle out. The same happens if you get high winds offshore when you ignite an oil slick. But burning is very efficient. The efficiency of burn depends on the oil thickness. And when you get a fully engulfed oil slick offshore, you get what's called a chimney effect. These convective winds come up and sustain the burn by bringing air in and oxygen, but it also provides its own kind of natural herding effect. So free-floating oil slicks will burn without a boom if you can get a large enough fire to happen, and herders allow that to happen, as I'll describe. And burning is very quick, 2.5 millimeters a minute, so 1 inch in 10 minutes. And that is the reason that herded and ignited oil slicks can't burn for very long. A herder will at most make an oil slick 10 millimeters thick. So by the time you get the flame to propagate across the slick, which happens quickly, say give that 10 minutes, and burn can't last for more than 10 minutes, and then give a 10-minute fudge factor. Say 30 minutes is a rule of thumb for how long a herded oil slick could possibly burn. So just make sure you're upwind of any, or you're up current of any infrastructure that you want to protect by more than 30 minutes, which is an easy calculation. to make. And lastly thing here is Herded oil slicks burn until the oil slick becomes too thin to insulate the fire, and that's about 1 millimeter. So let's say you had a 10 millimeter thick oil slick, it would burn down to 1 millimeter, giving you a 90% burn efficiency. So it can remove a lot of oil, and it can do it very quickly with minimal equipment. Okay, so what are herders? Herders are very similar to the surfactants that are used in dispersants. They're similar to the surfactants that are used in shampoos and soaps and laundry detergents and for other reasons. And they have this unique character of having one part of the large molecule want to be in the water and the other part wants to be in the oil. So when you spray them around the perimeter of an oil slick on the water surface, they align at the surface and change the surface tension of the water, and by changing the surface tension, it changes how the oil interacts with the water, and it causes it to magically shrink into a smaller area and thicken. So herders for in situ burning, I have a slide here. They use a surfactant boom to thicken oil slicks, so there's no boundary required. So you see this drawing up in the right-hand image. That's the traditional and conventional way of doing in situ burning with booms. You can see you need the infrastructure of 2 large vessels, and you need a very large and heavy piece of boom. It's not standard, it's fire resistant. And in fact, they weigh so much that you need large cranes and large equipment to move them around. So the logistics of getting them from a warehouse out to a burn is quite challenging. It takes time, and in fact, that's why offshore in situ burning has only been an operational oil response tool one time, and that's during the Deepwater Horizon incident. And that unique event had oil coming up every day, so there was time in place for single release types, which are most oil spills, relatively quick releases. By the time you can get the equipment out there for in situ burning, it's too late, and the oil is either weathered or it's spread too thin or it's broken up into too many small slicks, and in situ burn hasn't been practical. Herders change that, because now this is an old drawing. We show herders being delivered by a helicopter, and then a helicopter drops some flaming gel gasoline to ignite the slick so it can move at the speed of the helicopter. We'll describe, I think, in another talk afternoon, the use of this autonomous jet ski that does all of that by itself and does it very quickly. So herders are a way of removing all of this equipment you see here and doing things with minimal amount of equipment. That means there can be faster response and more units capable of doing more things, which is really critical for a large offshore spill. So herders typically require at least an order of magnitude less product than dispersants. They've been around a long time, developed by the U.S. Navy. This group, Garrett and Barger, in 1972, studied herders. And they did it for open water applications. They were trying to improve mechanical recovery, but when they went offshore for reasons that it wasn't very efficient for offshore. In the 2000s, we resurrected herders for in situ burning, and we were looking for applications in ice, as I said, but most of that research even then was done in systems that were really temperate conditions in open water. So our goal with herders is to have another tool that can be rapidly applied and make in situ burning a routinely used response option, particularly for large offshore oil spills. And this is just a little bit. Herders need to be sprayed carefully around the perimeter of a slick. The surfactant molecules then spread across the water surface and change the surface tension and cause this thickening. And eventually they'll become a monomolecular layer, as I show in this bottom drawing here. And that's all that's necessary. So we've done since 2000, since the early 2000s, we've done changes probably over 20 years of research now to show that herders work. So we know that they work for in situ burning applications, and we know what conditions are needed for them to work. And they are not just Arctic, as I said. We've formulated low toxicity and rapidly biodegradable herders, thick, slick 6535 as an example. It's listed for use in the United States, and it's now listed for use, as we'll describe, in the United Kingdom. And we've done tests on the toxicity and the biodegradability. Herders are about an order of magnitude less toxic than say Coregs at 9500, the dispersant, and they biodegrade very quickly. They're 99 in this standard test for biodegradation used to see if something can go into a wastewater treatment plant. They are over 99% gone in 20 days in that test. And we've done tests at all scales, from very small scale can tests to large scale offshore tests. We did field tests in Norway in 2016, where we used a simple garden sprayer in a man overboard boat to spray herder around the perimeter of an oil slick. 6-meter cubes were the size of these slicks, and you can see this is a herder slick before we ignited it. And then we use these are the 2 man overboard boats here in this upper right image. And then we use them and we dropped simple handheld igniters on the upwind edges so it burned. And we got significant burns. The herded slicks burned for 15 minutes. As I said, this is a pretty quick operation compared to the control slick with no herder that burned for less than 10 minutes. But that slick required multiple attempts to ignite the oil slick to keep it going. So application requirements just for them in the field, we have a pretty good understanding. We don't know the edges of the window of opportunity. So sea state is unknown. Tests done by Garrett and Berger in the 70s, offshore tests, they kept herded oil slicks herded in 6-foot seas with whitecaps for many tens of minutes, which is way longer than we need for herders. So the window of opportunity for herders may be greater than the window of opportunity for either mechanical recovery and in situ burning in fire booms. They're suitable for low to medium viscosity oils that have enough volatiles to support combustion. We can use it on lighter fuel oils that have volatile, crude oils again. And as I said, the dosage is small, and you can treat a lot of oil with a small amount of herders. And as I said, low toxicity and you need small quantities. At least 30 times less herder can treat the same size oil slick as you would need for dispersing that oil slick. And there are many use scenarios, but for the large offshore drills that I'm interested in for my research, it's this in situ burning aspect. But you can herd and skim. It can make skimmers more efficient, especially in protected areas where there's a lot of infrastructure. There might be rebeds or there might be docks. You can use herders to push an oil sheen outside of those areas, so it can be recovered with sorbents or skimmers or other things. And they have been tested in the North Cap and SPC. We're attempting to get approval for the regulatory. In fact, I think they are approved for use in Kazakhstan right now. And so application techniques are quite simple. I won't go into the details here. I think we're going to get more on this jet ski. Autonomous jet ski is what we think is the real fast and quick and a system that allows us in situ burning to be a really step change operation. But there's other systems that we've developed all the way down to simple handheld garden sprayers. So with that, I will stop and answer any questions if there's time for questions.